Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition.
Hello, kids. Welcome in. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show underway for another day on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Pleased you decided to join us whatever time you're able to give us. We're certainly appreciative of that. My name is Matt Murphy, conveniently enough, and I'm happy to be with you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We've got episode 658 raring to go. We have 41 days to go before the presidential election is complete. Already early voting happening right now, and we're going to talk about that during the Libertarian Lunch. It's also Locks for Trump Day 206. That's right. Since March 1st, I've made a commitment to all of you and to the United States of America that I would not be cutting my hair until we have a new president-elect. That was when there was a danger that Joe Biden could possibly slip in there and complete another 4 years or, however long he was able. Well, now we're guaranteed to have a new president-elect come November 6th or whenever they figure out how to tally all of the votes for Kamala in Pennsylvania. One way or the other, thank you for being with us. We appreciate you. Whatever time you're able to give us, like I say, we're appreciative of that. It is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. Can I get some Bell K's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of his speaker sounds as good as possible? Is it possible to get some light? I can't see anything in there. Is it possible to get light in there? Or maybe I should get less light in here. If I lowered my light in here, we would all have that level of, I'm not going against the mood lighting that you're trying to get.
Yeah, I think you need to turn can you just turn the lights off so I don't have to look at you?
I think, you know what I think it actually is? I think someone, either Dan Mandis of Nashville's Morning News or Chris Hand, I believe it probably was Mandis, was so amazed at the fact that there was moisture coming out of the sky in the form of rain showers that he pulled open the curtains or the blinds so we could see it in here in the studio.
Do you want the honest and funny truth?
What's that?
Since I'm training Sammy, I kind of deprioritized that, but I hate it this dark in here, so I was planning on fixing it in a minute anyway.
Well, there you go. There you have it. I thought maybe it was the upper lighted area. You know what? This is
Mason
probably
keeps it like a cave in here.
I know. This is probably not a good conversation to have with Ken Weaver listening to us in the background, because poor Ken, he doesn't even have
have a window.
He doesn't have a window.
How many years in this business, Ken? Oh, he's not back there right now.
Okay. I don't blame him. He had to get out of the closet.
Wait, you got to be in like 40 years in the business before you get a window?
Apparently, I don't know how I enjoy. This has to be a Dan Mandis thing.
It must be.
Or maybe a Brian Wilson thing
you get the benefit of their longevity.
Right. Because it ain't me, baby. I promise you that. One way or the other, we've got rain showers coming down, and that's nice. I mean, it was a dust bowl outside over the last several days. For those of us who have had no rain, that's good that we have some rain showers coming through. And apparently, some of that, I'm very confused. I don't pay attention to the weather like some, but I was trying to figure out where this hurricane was coming from. Oh, Dan says he's guilty. No. I mean, I bet you. I mean, and I don't blame you, Mandis, because it is pretty fascinating. After weeks and weeks and weeks of no rain, it seems like it hasn't rained in a month of Sundays, and then you get some rain, and you want to check that out. You want to make sure you know what's going on outside in downtown, especially with Nashville's Morning News. I mean, they got the morning commute going on. You've got to make sure that everyone's aware. Maybe give yourself another 5 minutes because of the rain, and people aren't accustomed to it, and people will freak out. No, I get it all. I understand it. One way or the other, I'm confused. And so I looked this morning because I keep hearing about this hurricane that potentially could impact our weather patterns in Middle Tennessee. And so I go to my handy-dandy radar, and I feel like I have a pretty good radar. I got a handle on what's going on with the radar. And I'm confused because they're talking about, I can't find the hurricane they're talking about on my radar. I mean, on this radar, this one right here. And I'm not saying it's the best radar in the world, but I'm a little confused and I guess it's coming up through the Yucatan Peninsula, and it'll get to, it does not look like a typical hurricane system. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But apparently it could potentially impact Middle Tennessee weather come Saturday or so. It should not impact necessarily football games, in as much as by the time it gets up here, it'll be a lot of rain and maybe some wind. Nothing that would potentially cause a delay in football activities over the course of the weekend.
Maybe those Auburn Tigers ought to just go up there to Oklahoma and play.
That's a great idea, Ken.
Yes,
Ken
sir.
Weaver's back now with ideas. Ken has suggestions.
Yeah.
As to what-
Maybe, in fact, why doesn't everybody just come to Oklahoma? Everybody we play, let's just make it a home game for my Sooners. Because it's outside of tornado. Well, no, wait a minute. We still get
you got a tornado or two over there. I've seen where Oklahoma is on the map.
Well, for those, then the other teams can just forfeit.
That sounds like that's a perfect rest of the season for Ken Weaver, the Oklahoma Sooners. Look, this is a perfect opportunity for y'all to bounce back from what happened between Tennessee and Oklahoma.
Well,
Perfect opportunity.
We'll see about that. We're pretty excited about this QB1, this new QB1, number 9, Michael Hawkins. He's fast, but he's only about 6'1" and maybe weighs 200 pounds. Not going to be able to take hits like that all season.
Oklahoma and Auburn is officially declared as the Who Can Find a Quarterback Bowl. I mean, right?
That's right.
And after the first game of the season, I go to Weaver and I said, man, it looks like y'all found a quarterback. Didn't remember that? I haven't brought it up since.
Dude, did you know in that kid's 5 starts, okay? Jackson Arnold is 5 starts, and I'm not slamming this kid at all. I feel horrible for him. But in 5 starts, he's got 9 turnovers. You can't do it. You cannot do it. I don't care about, the play calling. The offensive line. No, you cannot turn the ball over.
So he has, say that again, in 5 starts, he has 9 turnovers?
5 starts, he has 9 turnovers.
Is he aware that there's a starting job opportunity with the Tennessee Titans? I mean, you turn the ball over like that, you could start for the Tennessee Titans. Has he thrown the ball to the opposing team?
Yes.
Ken? Okay.
Yes.
Has he flipped the ball to the opposing?
Yes.
Okay, good. Very good.
Yes.
Well, I mean, there's opportunities for him in the next level, my friend.
Well, and we got pedal taverns.
And we have battle taverns, sure. We were just talking about the fact that you've worked too long in the business not to have a window.
Oh, yeah, looking outside?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a window to look outside.
We can make that happen.
Just like after a newscast, just walk while the commercials are playing, walk over to the window and then stroke my beard.
That's right. Look pensively.
Look pensively outside and contemplate what the next story will be.
There's something going on in the world.
And I know it.
And Ken Weaver will tell you. Oh, yeah, that's a promotional video, my friend, if anything.
It's like that time Les Nessman got a chance to go interview the Soviet farmers. And his first question was, just what is it you think you're trying to pull?
Chai Rodriguez.
Mr. Rodriguez.
And the best part about that clip was at the end, he gets told the pronunciation. He won't do it. And he goes, Mr. Rodriguez was under par during his last round. Let's hope Mr. Rodriguez gets it up to par in the next round of the tournament. It's like he doesn't understand golf. No. He don't know how to say his name.
No. But for that interview of the Soviet farmers.
He said, just what are you guys trying to do?
He won the Silver Sow Award.
That's right.
Had a big silver pig up on his desk.
Well, yeah, you gotta celebrate your awards.
Oh, I want one of those.
Oh well, we've got an award-winning journalist right there in the news closet. That man's name is Ken Weaver, and he's got news coming up in about 15 minutes or so, or when it breaks. We've got a lot of you on the
that's not
telephones.
just a superlative.
No, that's the real deal. That's exactly right.
He has won awards.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't understand how difficult, I mean, imagine how difficult it is winning an award with me around. I mean, you know what I'm saying? There are obstacles that you have to jump over in order to get to those awards, and Ken Weaver has done so with aplomb.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Chai warned me about that.
I bet he did. Look, now Craig wants to talk about the Auburn Tigers. No, we're not talking football.
Yeah, we got.
I mean, I understand. I was actually, and this is a great place to launch the show. Okay. I was actually talking with our our industrious, illustrious, and incredible morning newsman. No, not Joan Jones. No, not Malinoff. I'm talking about Dan Mandis of Nashville's
Dan
Morning.
Mandis.
And we were talking about this earlier, that we've reached silly season in the elections where there's a lot of the same news that's coming out. You're waiting for some other shoe to drop somewhere. But we got 41 days to go. People are already voting. I was down at an event in Columbia, Tennessee last night. Kyle Rittenhouse was at this event.
Oh, yeah.
You guys might remember Kyle Rittenhouse from Kenosha, Wisconsin, and all of the drama that went on during the summer of 2020 and ultimately culminated in Rittenhouse having to defend himself, protect his own life by shooting two other people. And, actually he shot three people. He killed two and wounded one as the mob in Kenosha, Wisconsin was coming after him to attack him and to potentially kill him. He was relating this story, and I was just around a lot of political people. And for most of us, we have a difficulty understanding, and I guess I get it after 24, 25 years doing this job, that it is somehow hard to see the forest for the trees. You find yourself so immersed in our own little corner of the world that it is difficult for us to understand who would vote for Kamala Harris. Why is this such a competitive race? Why is it such a nip and tuck race? I don't believe the polls as far as we can throw them. I believe that polling has sadly lost its purpose, and many of those polling organizations that are used to make these amalgamated polls or to make these combo polls like you find on the Real Clear Politics, if you frequent Real Clear Politics, they use a combination of a variety of polls to do an analysis of where we are in the race. Well, some of those polls, in my opinion, are tainted because the polls aren't designed to get a clear picture of what is happening right now on the ground. They are designed to further a narrative. They're designed to present a headline. Polls are not to be presented to put a headline up on the front of a newspaper. Polls should be a snapshot in time. And sadly, I think many news organizations and many other outlets are using their polls to try to move the needle one way or the other. If your purpose for a poll is to move the needle one way or the other, then you're not doing it right. And we get a lot of that going on. And so when we saw, and I broke this down yesterday, when you saw the NBC poll come out over the weekend that suggested that Kamala Harris was 5 points up nationally, national polls don't matter, zero impact on the election. It's all about battleground states. But that is designed to depress turnout in those battleground states amongst conservatives that might be thinking about going to vote, but if they come to believe, sadly some do, that, well, I guess this thing's over even with 40 days to go, then maybe you depress the turnout and you see a swing in a state that would have gone one way but goes another way. And I'm not suggesting that this will happen in these swing states. I am telling you that that is by design for some of the polling organizations to do these things. Now, what does all of that mean? I was heartened last evening with the enthusiasm amongst a group of conservatives, and there were libertarians there as well, but conservatives and libertarians who assembled in Murray County. And thank you, by the way, for Debbie Matthews inviting me to this event. It was well attended. It was good to see all of our fine listeners down in Murray County. They love Super Talk 99.7 WTN. They put up with me, and I appreciate each and every one of you listening today. That said, what was most encouraging throughout the course of the evening was the enthusiasm that these folks had in getting out and voting early and encouraging others to do so. We have well established which way Tennessee is going on election night. However, we must embrace, I don't appreciate it, and I wouldn't do it this way if I were king for the day. If I were the decision maker as to how we were to vote, I'm well established. I would put a 3-day, 72-hour voting period in place. And that's one of the few. There would be two rules nationally about how we engage in presidential elections. Number one is that you must present photo identification, whether you're voting in person or voting absentee. There's no mail-in balloting. There's no online balloting. You must either present a legitimate absentee reason and vote absentee after presenting your photo identification so that we can get you off the voter rolls and nobody votes in your stead on election day, or you present yourself to the polls within a 72-hour window. And I don't care if it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, if it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, just pick a span of 3 days and let's do it that way. Why? Because we have a lot more people in America nowadays, and I understand that you want to try to mitigate voting lines, especially in more populated areas. I have an appreciation for that, so you expand the window, but you don't expand the window for 60 days of possibilities of who knows what. What sort of I have no idea what sort of shenanigans can go on in the span of 60 days. But it's too long of a period of time to give those who want to do bad things the opportunity to do bad things. However, it is the system that we're currently working with. Various states have various blocks of time by which they allow their voters to go to the polls. Tennessee has early voting, obviously, and I encourage you to utilize it. Do not start the contest millions of votes down, or in the various battleground states, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of votes down. And I understand that you feel like, well, we'll catch up. Well, if you wait to voting day, what happens when, 5,000 people in Pennsylvania or thereabouts have some sort of issue that prevents them from going to the polls? What happens when Meemaw decides she's feeling a little under the weather and, one vote won't matter, where she could have gone 2 weeks ago? I encourage you to vote as soon as the window in your state opens, wherever you might be listening, to vote then. Don't wait. This is the system that cost us the election in 2020. And we must better utilize the system and win by a margin that prevents any sort of cheating or shenanigans that may go on. Now, at 23 after the hour, many of you on the membersnutrition.com super text line, when finding out that I was in Columbia, Tennessee last evening in Murray County, are asking me the same question. And I'm not kidding. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 different questions on the membersnutrition.com super text line. Was Andy Ogles there? I will answer that question when we come back on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Gentlemen, let's talk for a moment about your health, because I know guys in their 40s, guys in their 50s, sometimes you don't want, oftentimes, you're not wanting to go to the doctor. You don't want to deal with doctors and analysis and, checkups and all of these things. We're guys, right? You rub some dirt on it and you move on. But when it comes to your T levels, when it comes to internal health, you cannot play with some of these numbers. You need to know your blood pressure, man. You need to know your cholesterol, and you need to know your T level, because it could dramatically impact your energy, and it could get to you before you're aware. And when that happens, you're not getting gains at the gym. You're not going to the gym anymore because you don't feel like going to the gym. You're not doing some work outside because you don't feel like it. And maybe it slows down intimacy and bedroom activity with you and your significant other. If any of these things are going on in your life, I encourage you to get in front of this issue and handle it. Men, take care of your business by going to Tennessee Men's Clinic. You can find out more about the various options that they have in front of you by going to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or schedule an appointment with a qualified urologist today at Tennessee Men's Clinic. It is private, obviously, confidential, obviously, and it works. 615-208-9090. 615-208-9090 for our friends at the Tennessee Men's Clinic.
House Speaker Mike Johnson responds to the question, are you defying former President Trump? Coming up at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Looking forward to that, Ken Weaver. Thank you so much. It's 28 minutes, almost 28 minutes after the hour right now. On Super Talk 99.7 WTN, a hit-or-miss rainy day in Middle Tennessee. We need it. It was a dust bowl in my yard for the last several weeks, and I love seeing the rain tamp down some of that dust. I'm sure many of you feel the same. Into each life, some rain must fall. 615-737-9986 if you'd like to be a part of the show. 615-737-9986. You can reach us on the membersnutrition.com super text line at the same number. And you can also obviously reach us on the phone lines. So many of you are asking, considering that I was down in Murray County last night, I went down to, and I don't want to screw this up, Debbie. Tell me if I'm saying it wrong. I think it was the Murray County Constitutional Republicans. I forget the precise name of the organization, but they brought in Kyle Rittenhouse, who obviously had this at the age of 17 horrific experience in Kenosha, Wisconsin, in the aftermath of the quote-unquote ironically named Summer of Love, in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing, where you had, Minnesota burning to the ground, other various cities burning to the ground, and then there was the incident in Kenosha involving, I forget the guy's name, but he got pulled over and he pulled a knife out of his car and he got shot. He did not get killed, but he did get shot. And so many of those who have a propensity for violence took to the streets of Kenosha, started burning that city to the ground. Kyle Rittenhouse took up arms to protect a business that was owned by a friend of his. And eventually he was putting out fires in the city and had to literally defend himself with a gun. Otherwise, the rioters would have taken his life. So several of you were asking, and it was a great night, and Kyle seems like a nice young man. He did not necessarily ask for this in his life, but he now has it, and he's embracing it as best he can. He's got a great emotional support dog by the name of Milo that was on stage with him. I'll post up a couple of pictures on my Twitter feed, at Matt Murphy Show.
What kind of dog?
It was a golden retriever.
Oh, okay.
Or it looked to be it was a golden retriever. Milo was awesome, though. He lay on stage, and he was just calm, as cool as the other side of the pillow, man, and Kyle's doing his thing, and he's just laying there. And then, at some point, about halfway through the remarks, Milo decided just to get on his back, just lay flat of his back on stage with all his paws. It was. I got a good shot of it. It was pretty. And he's looking at everybody in the crowd upside down.
Looking for some belly scratches.
Oh, that's exactly right. Hey, you're not paying attention to me, man. What are you doing? What are you doing?
I was like, I got nothing to worry about. He's packing.
Well, that's true. That's exactly right. That was good. It was good. But many of you are asking me if we saw Andy Ogles last evening. Well, I am here to report that Andy was, I feel like Maury Povich. Remember this Maury Povich?
You are the father.
Right. Andy Ogles was not in attendance last evening. But many people were asking about Andy, and many people had a similar experience in Murray County, where he's from, where they have not seen Andy in quite some time. I think it's time to ask why Andy is not making himself available to the people that he represents. Is that not a fair question to ask at this point? Where is Andy Ogles? Well, they took his phone, Matt. Is he aware that there are others? I'll give you more on this in a moment. I got a belly full to say about this, plus your telephone calls. It is the conservative Republicans of Murray County. That's what I'm being told now from 6436. Thank you, 6436. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we've got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has most of the state under a state of emergency ahead of what is expected to be a major hurricane later this week. Her name will be Helene.
We do anticipate that it will intensify before it makes landfall. We do anticipate it's going to form in the next 12 to 24 hours. We also anticipate storm's going to move pretty quickly once it gets beyond the Yucatan and Cuba.
Basically, every county in Florida outside the southeast coast are under a state of emergency. In our nation's capital, the House is expected to vote on a measure that would fund the government for the next few months this week. The bill, called a continuing resolution, will not include a measure that would require proof of citizenship before voting. That measure, called the SAVE Act, was on former President Trump's wish list, but when asked whether he was going against Trump's wishes to pass this current bill, House Speaker Mike Johnson said,
He and I have been on exactly the same page. I saw a headline, I'm defying Trump. I'm not defying President Trump. I've spoken with him at great length.
And I just got a news alert from USA Today. It says the son of would-be Trump assassin Ryan Ruth has been arrested on child pornography charges. And right now in Tennessee, federal investigators say they're still trying to figure out how to get that small plane out of the Cumberland River in Cheatham County. It went down yesterday, the Aviat Pitts S-111B, with just the pilot on board who died.
The first report that the NTSB will issue is a preliminary report that will be issued in about 10 days. That'll list all the factual information we've learned to date. A final report can take anywhere from 12 to 18 months, where we will issue a factual report, an analysis, and the probable cause.
And a new report from the CDC shows while numbers have gone down in recent years, obesity still affects 40% of all American adults. Top researchers say weight loss drugs have been promising, but they say it's still too early to know if that progress will be long-lasting. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guys at USS know this, right? So when it's hot and dry for a period of time in Middle Tennessee, the soil cracks and pulls away a little bit from your home. And then when the rain comes in, the rain fills those holes. And this could potentially cause waterproofing issues or foundation issues. It is a danger in Middle Tennessee. It's an ever-present danger. But if you have USS on your side, you know you have the experts that can handle this situation or any situation that might come along in your home. So the bottom line is this. If you think that you have foundation issues, if you've noticed windows sticking or doors sticking, if you've noticed walls cracking, or the telltale signs, they call it the stair-step cracks, where a crack appears in the mortar joints of your basement or your crawl space where you have exposed brick or exposed masonry. Well, bottom line is you've got to call USS. Plus, of course, waterproofing issues, mold, mildew, musty smells, all of that, USS will handle it, and they will handle it for the lowest cost possible to make sure that you don't have to worry about this down the road and in the future. USSTN.com. They guarantee their best at USS, serving Middle Tennessee since 1994. That is 30 full years. 615-488-7855 for USS. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Many of you on the membersnutrition.com super text line reacting to Andy's non-presence at the Murray County event last evening. John writes in and says, maybe Andy is on vacation with Joe Biden. Maybe. Sally says, yeah, they took Andy's phone. Maybe they should have taken his passport. Wow. I mean, some of you guys are hard edge, harder than me. What a man, oh man. That's pretty tough. And 8726, Andy's staff say that he's been at several public events in the district recently and that you can call them directly if you want more info. Do you need a phone number? 8726, sure, I'm happy to have a phone number. If you're going to give me a phone number to Rick Williams, I don't need that phone number. If you're going to give me a phone number to anyone on Andy's staff, I don't need to talk to Andy's staff. I think the people of the 5th Congressional District that elected him want to talk to him. And he's been non-present in forums such as this one. Not just for me. Ask Mandis. Ask Brian. Ask Chris. Ask anybody. And we're friendlies, right? We're not against Andy. I have no idea what's happening with Andy. I would like to know. I think the people of his district would like to know. Hey, Matt, at one time I heard Kyle Rittenhouse wouldn't support Trump. Has that changed? Yes, it has. I don't know that they got into it. At least if they did, I did not hear it, and I didn't hear every single moment of it. But Kyle Rittenhouse at some point said that he wouldn't be endorsing or didn't endorse Trump, and then he immediately turned back on that and said that he wasn't.
He said on Twitter that his intention was to write in Ron Paul because he didn't like some of Trump's Second Amendment stances. And when that hit, immediately Trump's campaign was all over him going, what do we have to do to get you back on board?
Right.
And that lasted, and I'm not exaggerating, I think it lasted about 6 hours, and then he was back on the Trump train.
Yeah. So he's all in on Trump. I know that at the end of his speech, he raised his fist in the air and encouraged people to fight, and to vote for Donald Trump. So there's that. Speaking of Donald Trump is speaking in Savannah, Georgia as we speak, and we might join some of this in progress in just a second. President Trump just mentioned that and this is new, I believe, the centerpiece of his plan for a manufacturing renaissance will be a 15% made in America tax rate, meaning that he wants to cut business taxes. I love this idea. From 21 to 15%, but only for companies that make their product in the United States of America. So he wants to an American-made tax cut, a 6% tax cut from the rate of 21%. You know, it was 30. The business tax rates were 35% under Barack Obama. They got lowered under Trump's tax plan to 21%, which benefits everyone, by the way. It benefits everyone to see business have a lowered cost of doing business. And if you need me to explain that to you, I'm happy to. I'm happy to explain to you how businesses do not pay taxes. Businesses do not pay taxes. Do you know who pays taxes? The consumer. The end consumer pays the tax that the business is charged. It is a pass-through. If the cost of my doing business goes up by 3% on my electrical costs, is it possible for me to eat into my meager profit margin? Sure. Is it equally possible that I might lay off employees or decrease manufacturing or decrease productivity? Yep, that's possible too. That hurts the economy. Or I can pass along those costs to the end consumer by charging more for my widgets. This is what businesses most often do when their tax rates go up. Taxes are looked at as what? A cost of doing business. So Donald Trump is dead on here. If you want to promote more manufacturing in the United States of America, you create a system by which you incentivize people to stay right here in the United States of America. And if they tell you, well, Trumpy Trump, it costs more to hire American workers than it does for me to, offload this production overseas in, wherever it might be. Well, if we incentivize it and we lower your tax rate, if you were to do it here, that might balance out your balance sheet to the point that you want to keep your, maybe you want to keep your manufacturing here in the United States of America, but it's just not economically feasible for you to do so. This is a great ability for you to do that. It is all about making America great again. Let's jip a little bit of this. That would be Join in Progress. Donald Trump talking in Savannah, Georgia right now.
Bad about me, I got to refute it. I do it quickly, but I refute it. As soon as I refute, he fell into a trap. Why would I let her say something bad about me and let it stand out there? If I don't refute it, people are going to think it's true. These people are the worst. These people are the worst. But it's been amazing what's been happening, and they're hearing what we're doing policy-wise, military-wise, border-wise, maybe especially border. You know, in 2016, I went on the border, and we fixed the border very quickly, and I was very proud of it. After that, nobody wanted me to talk about the border. They said, sir, it's been fixed. You know, I said, I want to talk about the border. They wouldn't let me, even though we got 12 million more votes in the following in 2020. We got 12. But listen, there is more enthusiasm now than there ever was for 2016 or for 2020 because of how bad they are. Because of how good a job we did and how bad they are. Under Kamala, there will be no car industry, no steel industry, no significant manufacturing of any kind, and we will be at risk of military defeat. You know that, right? A very simple fact is this. If you don't have steel, you don't have a military. And I'm not going to allow, and I said it before, and I'll say it again, and I got along with a great gentleman, Shinzo Abe, from Japan. He was assassinated. He was a great gentleman. But I said, Shinzo, we have to change our trade deal. And he said to me, I knew you were going to come with that. I said, well, why did you know? He said, for 25 years, no American has said that to us. They got away with murder. And we changed the deal. And the deal that we now have is really good. The deal we're going to have is going to be beyond belief with every, not just with Japan, with every company and every, frankly, with their companies and with their nations. I'm not going to allow Japan to buy U.S. steel. I'm not going to let it happen. 70 years ago, again, the greatest company on earth. Vote for Trump and you will see a mass exodus of manufacturing from China to Pennsylvania, from Korea to North Carolina, from Germany to right here in Georgia. They're going to come to Georgia from Germany and lots of other places.
Donald Trump on fire right now in Savannah, Georgia, promoting his economic plan of offering a 15% corporate tax rate to those companies doing their business in the United States.
We're definitely outworking the opposition. She'll go to one place in 3 days. I say, why can't I do that? Yesterday I was in Pennsylvania. I made 5 stops, 3 speeches. People say, how do you do it, sir? Then I said, where am I going tomorrow, sir? You're going to Savannah. Oh, what time are we leaving? 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh, great. I got home. You get home at 11, 12, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. When am I going tomorrow? I'm going to Savannah, Georgia. Well, I love you, but I wouldn't mind leaving at 11 or 12 or 1. I'd be just as happy to be on. Sir, we're leaving. Sir, we're leaving at 9 o'clock. We're leaving at 8 o'clock. But it's okay. It's okay. It's worth it. But look, the way I look at it, we have no choice. If we don't win this election, we don't have a country anymore. So we're going to work our asses off. We're going to work our asses off. We will bring back the American dream bigger, better, and stronger.
There's Donald Trump. He's delivering a speech in Savannah, Georgia. Wanted to join some of that in progress. 42 days away from the election, a little over 41 days. It's actually 41 in some hours. Some say 41, some say 42. Others disagree. 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. Let's talk to Mark in Fairview. He's up first on the Libertarian Lunch during the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. Hey, Mark.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well, Mark. Thank you for calling.
Yes, I just wanted to say something that was brought up in the previous hour or previous segment earlier this morning. I've been trying to call in and just got in. One of the callers mentioned about Christians not getting involved in the election and how many churches and pastors are out there. A lot of them are saying, we don't believe in that. Just stay in the church and don't get involved. And I just found that I can't even understand where they're coming from with that, because the truth of the matter is our founding fathers used over 10,000 references from the Bible to create our Constitution. Specifically, what they keyed in on was Deuteronomy 4, 5, and 6, where Moses was telling the Israelites, keep these statutes and rules that I'm teaching you and do them. Teach them to your children and your children's children. Keep them in your mind. Keep them in the forefront. Do these statutes and rules. Do not depart from these statutes and rules. That's the mindset that our founding fathers were under when they were creating the Constitution. Now, there were a couple, yes, that were deists and they didn't believe in the Trinity and Jesus and all that. But the majority of our founding fathers were evangelical clergymen of the church, and some of them were called the Black Robe Regiment, where the English feared them the most because they were the best in battle. You know, they led the regiments into battle in the Revolutionary War. So Christians, I mean, I'm retired Navy. I did a little over 20 years. I didn't start learning this stuff until I went in. I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. I didn't start learning it until I went in. The school system didn't teach us, you know, because the Democrats took over the school system. If you do not, as a Christian, get involved in politics and vote for the right people, you're not doing your Christian duty as an American citizen. Our founding fathers has numerous quotes about doing this. It's very easy to find. You can go to the Library of Congress. There's websites like wallbuilders.com. You can go and read, find the truth. Don't listen to the naysayers and all these folks. But my God, America, wake up. This is the United States of America. We were founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and that's it. You don't have to believe. That's fine. But we were still founded on these principles, and if it's up to the Christians to wake up and vote to get this country back in the right way.
Well spoken, Mark. I'm glad you called. I'm glad you shared what I consider to be your testimony on the air with us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care. That's a great call. 50 minutes after the hour, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I mean, do you have this ability in there? I mean, do you have an ability to touch? I mean, Bell left Sammy, who's training on the board. She will be screening your telephone. I mean, if you call, you'll hear Sammy, so you don't have to listen to the gruff roughneck that is Bell K. You listen to the dainty and delicate Sammy, who's on the line with you, asking you where you're calling from and what the nature of your call would be. However, Bell has now abandoned Sammy in the control area, and I'm a little concerned. She's smiling. She looks very willing. I'm concerned about her ability to press the button and take us to break. I don't know that she has that ability, but we're going to find out together, and then we may or may not be here in the coming seconds, or you may be listening to a commercial advertisement. One way or the other, it's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for the Glock store. You know, we've been telling you about these parties at the Glock store for, I guess, about a month or so now, and a lot of you are responding. It's pretty cool. Well, now we're reaching kind of party season, right? I mean, you think about, it's the middle of September. It's late September, for goodness sake. So now you're thinking Halloween, Thanksgiving, celebrations for the Christmas holidays. And if you're thinking about a place where multiple people in your office can gather, or you can celebrate an anniversary, a birthday, or the holiday season, what about the Glock store? Great place to party. I've been talking a lot about buying Glocks there and learning to shoot there, competing there. But this one is new, right? Because they have the VIP room with a full kitchen, dedicated shooting room. You'll get an instructor at your party. You'll have shooting activities designed for every level of your party. And you get all the ammo that you need. So, I'm telling you, this is a great idea for those, especially for those of you who love the Second Amendment and love shooting activities. Why not call the Glock store to find out more at 615-682-6565, 682-6565. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you, or stop by and say hello to them. They're minutes away from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere on Airlane Drive, just off of Elm Hill Pike. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the Glock store.
The eastern half of Kentucky and pretty much all of Middle Tennessee now under a severe thunderstorm watch. In fact, there is a line of what appear to be thunderstorms stretching from Bowling Green all the way back to Jackson, Tennessee, mainly north of 40 and west of 65, and it's sliding this way. We'll give you the details at 1 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Love it, love it. I love the way that Ken Weaver's talking right now with all that weather because we need rain in our area. Thank you, Mr. Weaver. We got headlines coming up in a mere moment or two. In the second hour of the show today, we're going to turn our attention to more local matters, more of a local nature. In as much as we have a tax that's being proposed in Davidson County that's not getting a tremendous amount of discussion, but I believe that there are individuals that need to know more about this and perhaps have questions about it. So I brought in somewhat of an expert on this matter. His name is Ben Cunningham. He is a part of, he's a part of this discussion, and he can help illuminate us, for those of us that are a little behind the eight ball as to what is going on in Davidson County with this tax. We'll do that next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Get your questions and your comments in. Ben Cunningham coming up in just a moment. It's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. Here's Ken Weaver's news.
One o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And again, a severe thunderstorm watch until 7 o'clock tonight for pretty much the eastern half of Kentucky, but all of Middle Tennessee. Nashville included, as are Cannon, Cheatham, Coffee, Dixon, Macon, Murray, Robertson, Rutherford, Sumner, Williamson, and Wilson counties. Right now, there is a line of thunderstorms that is mainly impacting Middle Tennessee, north of 40 and west of 65. It stretches from Bowling Green all the way back to Jackson. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. All ears and eyes on Florida, which is bracing for what is expected to grow into a major hurricane later this week. Governor Ron DeSantis this morning.
Given the data that's coming in about the tracks of the storm, we've increased the number of counties to 61.
Yeah, right now just a tropical storm, but expected to be major hurricane status later this week. He says everyone outside of Southeast Florida now under that state of emergency. News involving the son of Ryan Ruth, the man arrested in connection with the second apparent assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump. Orrin Ruth has been taken into custody on federal charges of possessing child pornography. And in our nation's capital, the House is expected to vote on a measure that will fund the government for the next few months this week. The bill, called a continuing resolution, will not include a measure that would require proof of citizenship before voting. That measure, called the SAVE Act, was on former President Trump's wish list, but when asked whether he was going against Trump's wishes to pass this current bill, House Speaker Mike Johnson said no.
He understands fully, President Trump understands the current dilemma and the situation that we're in, and so there's no daylight between us.
Elsewhere in Congress today,
I keep my eyes wide open all the time.
Members on both sides of the aisle gathered in the Capitol to unveil a statue of the man in black, Mr. Johnny Cash. Cash is the second statue in the Capitol to represent Arkansas, the other of Daisy Bates, a civil rights leader who mentored the black students who desegregated Little Rock Central High School after the Brown v. Board of Education Supreme Court decision in the 1950s. Again, we are under a severe thunderstorm watch until 7 o'clock tonight. That is Nashville, Cannon, Cheatham, Coffee, Dixon, Macon, Murray, Robertson, Rutherford, Sumner, Williamson, and Wilson counties. That means until 7 o'clock, conditions are ripe for storms to turn severe. Right now, we're tracking what are storms, mainly west of 65 and north of 40, moving Nashville's way. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Welcome back to it. It's the Matt Murphy Radio Show, hour number 2, cranking up right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 1550 has written in. I just want to get this out of the way because for some reason this has popped back up in the news. It's popped back up in my membersnutrition.com super text feed, and I just want to put this baby to bed, as they say. Matt, is WTN part of the sellout to George Soros? I got that one. I got another one that came down a couple of minutes ago asking the same question. I am pleased to tell you, no, Cumulus Media has not sold to George Soros. To my knowledge, we will not be selling to George Soros, and you will know if we ever do when Matt Murphy refers to him as Comrade Soros. Then you'll know at that moment that the sale is complete. That's also when I will announce my support of Kamala Harris for president of the United States.
That's actually probably very true. As we were coming back into the video.
The Super Talk TV?
Thank you.
Thank you. Which I have not done the title of yet, but we'll do that in a second.
I hit the wrong button. I hit the button that would show you and Ken. And Ken was back there doing a little dance. So everybody got to see Ken doing a little dance.
Ken was doing a dance?
He was doing a dance.
Yeah, but I had my shirt on.
Were you doing a theme song dance, Weaver?
I was, man.
Oh, you're going to see that dance after Oklahoma and Auburn go at it on Saturday afternoon, and Oklahoma rips up the Auburn football Tigers. You'll see that little dance.
You're going to see some moshing then, dude.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. That's good stuff. That's funny. Hey, Bell, funny. Hey, Ken, don't you think it's funny that Bell never accidentally puts himself on camera? Do you think that's funny? I think that's hilarious.
That's discipline right there.
Mm-hmm. Every so often he accidentally puts the janitor guy. What's that guy's name, Bell?
10 years he's been here, and you can't remember his name.
I'm always on the air when he's about.
His name is Leroy.
Leroy. Yeah. And Sammy's in the background screening your telephone calls, and we have a special guest in studio with us. Let's talk about that guest right after I beg of you, Bell, to tell us what the title of the episode is. I failed to do this in the first segment, and when I forget to do it in the first segment, oftentimes I forget to do it on the show, but it is longstanding tradition, and those regular listeners that know, and they get mad at me when I don't do it. Episode 658 on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch is entitled
Matt Murphy Show, reminding you, sucker is in the dictionary.
So this is funny. Did I get you, Sammy? I got Sammy too. This is one of my favorites. So I got several people yesterday. I said, just if you say offhandedly, I said, gullible's not in the dictionary. You can look it up. And several people said that they looked it up, which is so awesome. That just pleases me so much. And I briefly, just for a split second, got Sammy's like, really? And if I get the really, then I feel so warm inside. I feel warm. It's like I'm drinking hot chocolate. That's how I feel inside in my inner works. So thank you, Sammy, for making me feel good, for making yourself a little more gullible to the moment. I don't know if that makes any sense or not.
You're welcome.
A little Sammy action on the mic. Several of you want to see Sammy on Super Talk TV. No, she hasn't earned it yet. Maybe later on in the week. But this gentleman will be on Super Talk TV. He is a man that I've had great communication with over the past several weeks. We have just met formally for the first time. His name is Ben Cunningham. He is a local taxpayer advocate for those longtime listeners of Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I think you remember the name Ben Cunningham. I know he has been active in many of the tax issues that have come up from time to time across the state of Tennessee, long predating me being in the state in 2021. He is a part of the organization called NoTransitTax.com, and he is going to talk to us about what we can expect on the ballot this November with regard to Davidson County and a vote on increased taxation for the purpose of transportation. And he joins us in studio this afternoon. Mr. Ben, how are you, sir?
Matt, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. I really do appreciate it. We're having a difficult time getting the word out through the local media. Which is not a big surprise, but thanks so much. This really is a treat to be on and talk about it. Thanks.
Well, I know that you've made your way in this studio from time to time over the years, talking to a variety of different hosts about issues involving taxation. You mentioned right before we came on air that you were a part of the pushback on the possibility of an income tax several years ago.
Yeah, that was kind of my start and just a transformational experience for everybody that was involved. I mean, thousands of people would show up at the Capitol, honking their horns. Phil Valentine would get on the radio, say, guys, it's time to come. And it was just like a flood of people coming down there. And people would compete about who had the loudest horn. And the guy that finally won the contest had a pickup truck, and he put a train horn on the back of it. He had an air compressor, and he hooked up the air compressor. And buddy, when he pulled down on that thing, the windows at the Capitol literally shook back and forth.
That's awesome.
I thought they were going to break, but it was just a wonderful time. It lasted about over a 2-year period, and we came within a single vote of having an income tax in Tennessee. I remember Ben West walking up Legislative Plaza. He was one of the Democrats that was a good, solid conservative. There weren't many of those, but he was a good
Back in the day when those types of people existed,
yeah,
I think.
There were a few of those there. And he walked up Legislative Plaza, and he says, Nafee's got the votes. Jimmy Nafee was the Speaker of the House. And it was a critical vote. And what happened was one guy held out, and Nafee took him into his office and basically browbeat him for about 3 hours. And the guy stood up. He would not relent. And he really is the reason. I forget his name. I need to go back and research it.
Oh, we need to
hero.
find that. Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, Nafee was one of these old kind of boss hog, Democratic power player kind of guys, and he tried every trick in the book. But anyway, the state would have been.
Do you remember the year?
2002 is when it was finally resolved. Mm-hmm. But Sundquist was reelected in 2001. He had campaigned the whole time he campaigned on being against an income tax. I mean, his whole campaign was based on that. He got reelected, and 6 weeks later he came out and said Medicaid, or TennCare, which is our version of Medicaid, is putting too much pressure on the budget. We simply cannot withstand the financial pressures. We've got to have an income tax. And you talk about people feeling betrayed. Oh, man, Phil Valentine being...
No question.
It was just people were pissed.
Ken Weaver, do you remember this? You weren't here back in the day.
I wasn't here then.
Oh, man, but you've heard the stories, too, I'm sure.
Absolutely, but that's the first time I've heard about the fellow with the train horn. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. He was great. It got their attention, too.
I bet.
And so properly argued, and I obviously don't presume to know all the ins and outs like you do, Ben, but the argument is always, and it's something that we are going to talk about today, when these types of things happen, when the government gets their meat hooks in our wallets in any form or fashion, it is a rarity that they ever let go.
No.
Once taxes are initiated, they become, regardless of how they're advertised and regardless of how they're sold to the general public, they are permanent taxes.
And that's especially true of this transit tax that's coming up in November. It really is not about transit as much as it is a revenue source, which will then be used to match federal funds. And every time you get a federal grant, it's got strings attached to it. It's got regulations you've got to follow. It's got Emily Evans, and maybe you hope you can have her on sometime. But she really knows her stuff about all these strings that are attached to these federal grants. And one of the major strings is zoning. They incentivize you to get this high density, what's called nest zoning. They incentivize you to take up traffic lanes with bike lanes, which people I get emails about that every day. People are really pissed off about these bike lanes. They never see anybody in the bike lanes, but there they are, taking up a lane of traffic. And so this really is, and several proponents of the transit tax have openly admitted this. They said, okay, this is just the first step. We're not going to do regional rail. Freddie was all for the 2018 transit proposal. That was the same. It was enabled under the same legislation, exactly the same kind of process we went through in 2018 when Megan Barry, the mayor then, was proposing this. And it failed 2-1. And it was interesting. Just like now, the Vanderbilt polls showed just before the election showed it was winning, And the Vanderbilt polls now are showing that it was winning, but it failed miserably 2-1. When you talk to people, even the supporters, the support is a mile wide and about 1/8 of an inch deep. Nobody really wants all of this. It's $6.9 billion, and that's another issue, if I could discuss that also. In 2018, Freddie O'Connell was a member of the Metro Council, and before they approved the 2018 transit proposal, they passed an amendment forcing Megan Barry to put the total cost on the ballot language. It was $8.9 billion. Bob Mendez, who's now Freddie's right-hand man, passed an amendment at the final hour, saying you've got to put the total cost of $8.9 billion on the ballot language. And it was in there.
Right.
This time around, Freddie has left out the total cost. The total cost is $6.9 billion. What will appear on the ballot is $3.1 billion, less than half of the total cost.
Why?
Because we have a very far left Metro Council, and there was not even any discussion about it. I've talked with local news media time and time again, trying to get them to raise this point. So
the total cost is being misrepresented on the language of the ballot.
The total, absolutely, yes.
Explain and explain for those. I want to back up for a minute, Ben,
okay,
and help people understand how we got to where we are with this transit proposal. The idea we are told, and by the way, we are going to invite Freddie on. We'll have anyone that wants to talk between now and Election Day about this issue. We're going to have them on, proponents and opponents alike. Ben is obviously an opponent. I am predisposed to be an opponent unless convinced otherwise. I am a no on taxes until you convince me otherwise. Always. That's my default position. So
as it should be.
I mean, as it should be, right? So what is the nuts and bolts of the proposal for Davidson County?
This proposal is authorized under what's called the Improve Act, which was passed in 2017. Won't get into the nuts and bolts and bore everybody to death. But basically, that has a little provision in it. It raised taxes. It did away with a hall income tax, had a number of provisions. One small provision in it's called the local option surcharge, and that allowed local governments to increase 5 taxes. It specified 5 taxes, one of which was a sales tax. They said you can do this if you want to fund mass transit. And it's very well defined in the bill. It says mass transit is public access shared public transit, which is buses and trains and subways, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I believe strongly that the bicycle pass, the traffic synchronization, and the sidewalks are not authorized by the Improve Act. There's a big legal question about whether or not that's even actually authorized by this enabling legislation.
But they stick it in under the umbrella.
But they stick it in under the umbrella. But I think it is, in fact, we've had some discussions with some attorneys, and you may hear more about that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it was authorized under the Improve Act, as was the 2018 transit proposal. This is the only 2 times it's been used. Megan Barry did it in 2018, and it was defeated 2-1. It was an absurd proposal. She wanted to run trains down the middle of Knowlesville Road and Dickerson Road, literally down the middle of the streets. And I worked with Randall O'Toole. He's a transit expert with
like trolley cars.
Well, it was kind of like trolley cars. Yeah,
right,
basically,
right.
It's a 2 or 3 car train running down the middle of the major streets: Dixon Road, Knowlesville Road.
Let's take up more room where cars could be.
It would
for riderless. Yeah, I get it.
They couldn't turn left. It was just a mess. We figured out the average speed of these things was 8 miles an hour if you account for all the stops that they had along the way. It was an obscenely absurd and ridiculous thing. But it was defeated. Freddie saw that, and I think that's one reason, frankly, he didn't want to put the total cost in this proposal, in this ballot language, because he could have. The total cost, again, is $6.9 billion, and that's from the CPA firm Kraft, the company that did the audit of the proposal. Under the Improve Act, you have to do this audit and get all the numbers and everything. They said the total cost over the term of the project is $6.9 billion. Freddie said to Megan Barry in 2018, you must put that. We demand that you put that total number in there.
Right.
This time around, he said, no, we're not going to put that total cost in there. We are not. It is, my words, it is a lie. And it's
because they're putting a dollar figure on it that is an incorrect dollar figure.
Absolutely.
And they know it's incorrect.
And the taxpayers need to know what the total cost they're facing over the period. It's about $10,000 per resident, per capita of Davidson County.
So all right, we're going to get into the nature of the tax itself and exactly what they claim that it would do with Ben Cunningham in just a moment. And right after Ken Weaver's bottom of the hour newscast, we'll open up the phone lines for any of you that wish to ask questions of Ben. He's kind of more of an expert in this arena. He is well up on exactly what the proposal is. He is with us in studio this afternoon in the Matt Murphy Show. It's 22 after the hour on Super Talk.
Severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Sumner, Cheatham, and Robertson counties. All of Middle Tennessee is under a severe thunderstorm watch until 7 o'clock tonight. And that goes for the eastern half of Kentucky, too. So something we're going to have to watch is the weather and then the top stories coming up at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. There's Ken Weaver in the newsroom. Bell K behind the glass along with Sammy, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as possible. We'll be here until until 3 o'clock this afternoon, turning it over to Brian Wilson, who, hey, did you see who's in the house today?
Yeah, he's actually live in the studio.
Brian Wilson is in the house. We'll have a live one-on-one crossover coming up at about 2:45 this afternoon on Super Talk 99.7 WT. And speaking of in the house, Ben Cunningham is with us. He is with the organization NoTransitTax.com. He is an advocate for the taxpaying citizens of Davidson County and beyond, and we're discussing the nature of this transit tax that will be on the ballot for Davidson County residents in the upcoming election cycle. So specifically, what are they taxing? We talked a little bit about the nature of I got you there. We talked a little bit. No, that's on me. It's on me. I talked a little bit about the nature of what it might be going to, and I want to delve more into that in a moment. But specifically, what's coming out of our wallets if this thing were to pass?
Half-cent sales tax increase, which would get us to the maximum tax rate allowable in Tennessee, 9.75. And about 100, the estimates range from $120 to $150 million a year. Over the total life of the project, like I said, it's the number you won't see on the ballot, which he demanded that Megan Barry put on the ballot in 2018, is $6.9 billion. So that's the total cost.
Of
and
everything included in the proposal.
Well, and some of the costs are very nebulous. It's hard to figure out. And he's very open about the fact, and they've always been very open about the fact that this really is kind of a slush fund to get federal grants, and what is going to happen to those federal grants in the future, nobody knows. And this has been the downfall of transit agencies all across the country. They get these huge federal grants, and typically they're for capital expenses. And the local folks have to pick up the operating expenses. And so most of them fall off the fiscal cliff at some point when that money runs out. And they have to raise property taxes typically. And by the way, one real critical part of this is Freddie has already said he didn't raise property taxes this year in 2024, but he has said we are, quote, going to get back on track with a property tax increase next year. And most everybody that you talk to who has any knowledge of metro finances knows that they're going to have to raise property taxes next year, probably around 20%. So if you vote for this sales tax, you're actually voting for two taxes. You're voting for a half-cent sales tax increase, and you're voting, and you know you're going to get hit with a property tax increase next year. The reality is that this Metro Council is one of the most far left Metro Councils we've ever had. We know the expectation, I think, for everybody is they're going to rubber stamp anything that Freddie proposes as far as tax increases. So you're going to get at least a 20% tax increase next year.
So if I, for whatever reason, am considering to vote yes, the idea is, our roads are overburdened. We have somewhere between 85 and 90 people a day moving into the city. We need, obviously, to make sure that the roads are kept up, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's how they're selling this, right, to the taxpaying citizens.
Well, this is not for roads. None of this money will go directly to roads.
But that's kind of the spirit of the way that they're selling it.
That is. It's traffic congestion. We're going to reduce traffic congestion, which, of course, is crazy because the bus system right now carries less than 0.5% of the total passenger miles. Less than 0.5% of the total passenger miles that are driven motorized passenger miles, again, don't want to get too wonky here, are accounted for by transit. So if you doubled or tripled transit, it wouldn't do anything noticeable to traffic congestion. And it's just crazy to assume. And the bus system is like the bus system, bus systems and transit everywhere, they're plagued with crime. And you're not going to see a major increase in ridership. The ridership now has just inched back up what it was pre-COVID. And while all the other modes of transportation have exceeded that long ago, people, the name of the program is Choose How You Move, ironically. But when you look at how people move, they choose the convenience and the safety of an automobile.
Right.
That's how people choose to move. And when you look at the stats, and when Freddie says, this is for immigrants and low-income commuters, we're really going to help these folks. No, the stats show that if you commute by bus, it takes an average of 46 minutes. It takes twice as long on public transit to commute as it does to a car.
All right, hold your thought right there, Ben. Ben Cunningham is our guest. We've got news to get to, and this is your opportunity to ask any question of Ben that you might have regarding the transit tax. 615-737-9986. Opening up the phone lines right after the newscast. 615-737-9986. It's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And again, we have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 2 o'clock for Sumner, Cheatham, and Robertson counties. Now, this activity is to the north of Nashville. It is moving away from Nashville to the northeast at about 35 miles per hour. You can expect 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and this could damage roofs, siding, and trees. Springfield, White House, Millersville, Greenbrier, Coopertown, Ridgetop, Cross Plains, Pleasant View, Orlinda, and Cedar Hill. You will be in the path of this. Also, Interstate 65 between mile markers 103 and 111, and then 24 between markers 18 and 31. Now, the severe thunderstorm warning is part of a severe thunderstorm watch for all of Middle Tennessee. That is until 7 o'clock tonight, and that includes Nashville, Cannon, Cheatham, Coffee, Dixon, Macon, Murray, Robertson, Rutherford, Sumner, Williamson, and Wilson counties, and pretty much the eastern half of Kentucky. Meanwhile, all ears and eyes on what's to come over Florida later this week.
The White House says President Biden has been briefed on Tropical Storm Helene, and the administration's in touch with officials in the states in the path of the storm. Federal resources and personnel have been pre-positioned. That includes generators, food and water, along with search and rescue and power restoration teams. The president's directed FEMA to deploy teams to Florida and Alabama to work with local emergency response personnel and support their efforts. The White House urges people in the path of the storm to visit ready.gov for tips on how to stay safe and to follow warnings from local officials.
As Karen Travers reporting, we've learned the U.S. will send Ukraine another $375 million worth of medium-range cluster bombs, rockets, artillery, and armored vehicles to fight Russia. This is according to a U.S. official who spoke on condition of anonymity. It comes as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky speaks at the UN General Assembly later this week. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief is in Franklin. And within the sound of my voice, if you are in pain, I would encourage you to consider going to the Dr. Gill Center. I know I did. One of the first things that I did is I came to town and started meeting folks and meeting some of the fine sponsors of Super Talk. I met with Dr. Gill himself. I sat down with Dr. Wendy and the rest of the crew, Dr. Dominic, Dr. V, and the rest of the team at the Dr. Gill Center. I knew I believed in the way that they did their business just by talking to them, but then I became a patient of Dr. Gill. I had some upper back issues, some lower back issues. Dr. Wendy identified my neck issues. I thought it was just stress related, emanating into my shoulders. What I found out is I had a compression in my upper neck. We used spinal decompression technology that Dr. Gill originally brought to Middle Tennessee some 30 years ago, and I don't feel that pain anymore. As far as my lower back goes, we've diminished that pain to the point that I continue to play golf. I continue to enjoy outdoor activities, things that I would not be able to do were it not for the Dr. Gill Center. So obviously, I recommend them heartily. I encourage you to make the call. For less than $50, they'll give you a first initial examination, x-rays, and your first treatment for less than $50 at the Dr. Gill Center. Call 615-882-4838. 615-882-4838. It's the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. All right, don't say I never did anything for you, Davidson County. This is for you, right? So if you're in and around Davidson County, or if you do business in Davidson County, or if you shop in Davidson County, you need to listen up because there is a sales tax proposal on the ballot in November. You need to tell all your friends and neighbors that live in Davidson that they need to be aware of what they're voting on. To make you aware of it, Ben Cunningham is in our studios. He's with transittax.com to find out more. He's a taxpayer advocate, and he's just a fountain of information with regard to this tax proposal, what it will and will not do. And by the way, your questions, and I see you out there, John, we'll get to your questions, 615-737-9986. Just call them in or write them in on the super text line, and we'll get to each of them. And I see a lot of you on the super text line. You're doing that too. So you mentioned that the total cost, is this for the specific proposals that they have brought up that this tax is for, like the bike lanes and these types of things?
Right. The bus.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I'm rusty.
No, you're good. You're good.
But the bus, yes, this is for the total cost. But again, there's a lot.
So how are they playing with the numbers where they've got $3.1 billion on?
Well, $3.1 billion is the so-called current cost or capital cost, and $6.9 billion is the real
cost.
Number.
Right.
It's the amount of taxpayers, the amount of money the taxpayers are going to have to take out of their pocket and give to Metro government over the term of this project. It is $6.9 billion. It's one of the largest projects ever for Metro government.
What all is that money?
Huge project.
I'm just a publicly educated boy from Georgia. What is all that money going toward?
That really is a big question here, and we don't know what the total cost of all these little elements are. And to kind of pull back a little bit, the traffic synchronization, for example, Freddie's selling that as hard as he can. They've been talking about traffic light synchronization for 20 years. And I believe Metro government has already gotten grants in the past for traffic light synchronization. Any damn fool ought to know that traffic light synchronization is something we should have been doing for a long, long time.
By the way, that sounds like a politician BS response. I mean, that doesn't sound like anything.
No,
I mean, you know what I mean?
It's like,
Well, for traffic synchronization, it's going to cost us $1.5 billion. What? I mean, it doesn't sound like it's anything.
And Google has this special program. They go around to cities and they offer this technology free of charge to help cities move their traffic flow. There are all kind of ways that we can do traffic light synchronization. But for the mayor to come up and say, "Oh, hey, this is a big new shiny object that we're going to fund with this half-cent sales tax," no, this is something they've been looking at forever. Sidewalks are something that should be part of a normal operating budget. You shouldn't have to pass a special tax to do sidewalks. And the bike lanes, that should be part of a normal transportation budget. But he's acting as if all of these things are special and we're just now facing this challenge, and nobody really knows what it's going to cost eventually because, again, he's talking about these huge federal grants that he's going to get. And some of the supporters are actively now talking about, oh yeah, we're not going to get regional rail now, but with these federal grants, we can start paving the way for regional rail. That really is, for many of the supporters, that's the ultimate objective, is to get this huge regional rail that is not. Freddie has said, "Oh, this is a very small project. We're not doing any of that stuff like we did in 2018 when it was defeated 2-1. This is just kind of a small project." No. He wants federal grants, so eventually they will have regional rail. And you talk about property tax increases, buddy. You'll get property tax increases.
So if the idea here, and I think I know that I'm preaching to the choir for most of you when I say this. So you're putting a half-cent sales tax on the citizens of Davidson County for a specific set of reasons. So obviously, Ben, they're going to tell us when this tax is going away, right? Because if it's a new tax for a specific thing, once that thing has been paid for and is complete, the tax goes away. Isn't that the way it works, Ben?
It never works that way.
Of course.
It will never work that way. You get politicians get their grubby hands on the taxes. That's why it'd be so hard to raise taxes. And it's so frustrating for me, frankly, to talk to people, and they talk about, again, these kind of generic feel-good terms. We're going to reduce traffic congestion. No, we're not. There's nothing in here that's going to substantially affect traffic congestion. Now, you could go to, one thing we've suggested is you go to these major downtown employers like Alliance Bernstein or Oracle or Amazon, and you ask them to stagger their start times, or you ask them to give people work at home options. That's the way that you start reducing the amount of traffic that comes into downtown. And Freddie right now could use his bully pulpit to go to those corporate citizens. They always talk about, oh, we're good corporate citizens. We love Nashville. We're going to help Nashville. Well, if you really do, then let's get your assistance in reducing traffic congestion by allowing your employees to have the flexibility to come in outside drive times or to work from home some of the time. That's one way you could do that, and it doesn't cost a cent.
615-737-9986. Many of you already responding on the super text line. John has called in with a thought and question on the transit proposal. Hello, John. Good afternoon. You're on with Matt Murphy and Ben Cunningham.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Ben.
Hey, John.
Hey. So I've been doing this 21 years. I run a small transportation company, a couple trucks in town. I'm going to go into detail what it is, because obviously I don't want to get politically connected. I'm nobody, basically. So every day I see this stuff, and I can tell you what they're doing is they're actually slowing traffic down, and it's been proven before that they're slowing the speed limits down in efforts for pedestrians to not get hit. It's actually making it worse. And also, if you look on 12 South, they deliberately took 2 lanes, one on each side, and made bicycle lanes and put concrete medians in the middle of that. Who pays for the bicycle lanes, right?
Well, the federal government, anytime you get a grant from the federal government, there's always this lefty agenda behind and is attached to any of this federal money that comes along. And they require you to put some bike lanes in there. They require, the lefty environmentalists want a 15-minute city. They want you to get out of your car, which is pretty ridiculous in Nashville, since 99% of people choose to drive, to commute by car. But that's the reason you see so many bike lanes is because the federal grants that they get have all these strings attached and all these incentives attached to they'll say, okay, we'll give you this federal grant of $10 million, but if you want $15 million, you can do this, this, and this. You can have the high density zoning. You can have the bike lanes. You can have all this other stuff. And it ends up that the city government becomes a ward of the federal government, and the taxpayers are out of the loop, basically. You've got this bureaucrat to bureaucrat communication, and the local taxpayers really are out of the loop completely.
To give you an example, and I think the listening audience will pick up on this, and I'm not comparing the two situations, but I would say this. A lot of our audience, they're concerned that the state of Tennessee is not doing more about illegal immigration into this state. One of the reasons that the state is bound not to do more is because of some of the incestuous monetary relationship they have with the federal government, and with that monetary relationship comes those strings that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, it applies to things like transit just as it applies to other matters, where the federal government doesn't hand out those grants with no strings attached.
No.
There's always that money comes with expectations, and those expectations invariably lean left in terms of execution in cities like Nashville.
Yeah, and that's why the legislation is hundreds and hundreds of pages long, because all these conditions are put in there that you have to meet to get all this federal money. And this is not a hidden agenda. Freddie's very open. This $150 million a year for the next 15 years at least, probably be 20 or 30 years, is going to be used to bring in federal money. And the federal money is going to have all these strings attached, one of which is high density zoning. That's one reason they're pushing NEST, which is the kind of the local version of the high density zoning, and the thing that people have gotten so mad about in Davidson County. But you'll see NEST on steroids. You'll see instead of 3 houses built on one lot. You'll have 6 or 8 houses built on one lot. This will transform Nashville forever. There's no question about it in my mind. This really is kind of the first step.
A lot of people are asking, Ben, how this language will look on. Is there an identifier on the ballot? You know, oftentimes you see it's Amendment 1 or Amendment 4, whatever. I mean, how can people look for this?
It's right at the end of the ballot. You have to go all the way down to the end of the ballot, and you can go to the Davidson County Election Commission to see the sample ballot if you want to, but basically go very far down to the very end of the ballot, and there it is, referendum question number 1, and you can vote for it and give Freddie all this money, or we hope you'll vote against it. We hope you vote no against it, and you can go to notransittax.com and get a free yard sign. We'll bring a yard sign out for you if you want to support it.
All right, we might have a couple of minutes on the other side. We'll keep Ben here for a moment because I know we've got a call or two, but we have to do this real quick. It's the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, J.K. and Erica Brister are not just great friends. They are great business owners with U.S. Pest, and I'm proud to sponsor. I'm proud to be a part of U.S. Pest in terms of sponsorship, and I love them. I want to make them a part of your life as well. Let's talk about this because, I mean, in Tennessee, you know the deal, right? Bugs want the same thing that you want. When it's hot outside, they want to get cooler. When it's cool outside, they want to get warmer. They're a little communist, these bugs. They want to come into your home and glom on to what you have worked very hard for. And with them, they bring diseases, either insect or rodent-borne diseases. If you want to eliminate this in your life, or there's an ick factor that you want to get rid of, obviously, you need to call the best. And I consider the best to be U.S. Pest. Now, the fact that they are great American patriots, that is a bonus. The bottom line is this. They take care of the bugs that bug you. Full service pest control with a 100% money back guarantee. Obviously, termite protection. Every home in Tennessee is threatened by termites. You need to make sure that your home is not one of them by calling U.S. Pest. Either give them a ring on the line, and I'm about to give you that telephone number, or go online to uspest.com. That's uspest.com. The number 590-1260. That's 615-590-1260 for our friends at U.S. Pest.
All right, severe thunderstorm warning been extended until 2:15 now. That includes northern Davidson County, southwestern Sumner County, eastern Cheatham County, and southeastern Robertson County. These counties part of the severe thunderstorm watch until 7 o'clock tonight. So we got the weather, more details coming up. Also the top stories at 2 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. A moment or two left with Ben Cunningham, who has just been a wealth of information regarding the transit tax. Diane has been there for a minute, so I want to slip Diane here on the phones with Ben Cunningham and Matt Murphy. Diane, thank you for your call.
Oh, you're welcome. Good afternoon.
Sure.
I just wanted to say that I live near the train station that was formerly called the Music City Star, and This has been going on for 20 years, you know, this whole regional transit thing. And I'm telling you that it's not a successful program, not this one. I don't know about anything else going forward, but this one is not successful. The majority of the people that ride it, which are not that many, because you can see in the cars that now they have the windows darkened where you can't see, but there's not many people in the parking lots, and the majority of the people are Metro employees, and they're subsidized. So
let me let Ben answer to this because we're just real desperately short on time. Thank you, Dan, for the call very much.
Music City Star has been a disaster. Somebody figured up the other day the cost of a ride is like $400 per person. It's crazy, and the ridership has fallen off by at least 60%. It's crazy.
Just the tip of the iceberg. By the way, in an effort to be as fair-minded as we possibly can, at some point we will invite anyone with the mayor's office or anyone with the city that wants to promote this idea to come on the show. But in the meantime, where can people find more information, Ben?
NoTransitTax.com. NoTransitTax.com. Get a free yard sign and look up, get all kinds of information.
We got about a month and a half, a little less than a month and a half to get informed on this issue. Inform your neighbors if you live in Davidson County, and we'll continue talking about it. Ben, what a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate the forum.
There's Ben Cunningham. We'll be back in a moment. One more hour to go. It's the Matt Murphy Show. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Two o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we have thunderstorms, and some of them are severe. Right now, the severe storms are north of Nashville, and they are moving away to the northeast at 35 miles an hour. However, northern Davidson County is under a severe thunderstorm warning, along with Sumner County, Cheatham County, and Robertson County until 2:15. This is part of a storm moving northeast at 35 miles per hour that has the potential of 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and some quarter-size hail. This is also part of the severe thunderstorm watch for a larger area of Middle Tennessee. That includes Cannon, Cheatham, Coffee, Dixon, Macon, Murray, Robertson, Rutherford, Sumner, Williamson, and Wilson counties until 7 o'clock. We got the full forecast coming up in 4 minutes. We've learned the U.S. is sending Ukraine another $375 million worth of medium-range cluster bombs, rockets, artillery, and armored vehicles to fight Russia. This, according to a U.S. official who spoke on condition of anonymity. It comes after President Biden told the UN General Assembly this morning.
And we will not let up on our support for Ukraine. Not until Ukraine wins a just and durable peace in the UN Charter.
And it comes as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will speak at the UN General Assembly later this week. The Justice Department is taking on Visa. Here's more on the new lawsuit with Dave Packer.
The U.S. Justice Department filing suit against Visa, accusing the company of illegally dominating the U.S. credit card market. The complaint alleging Visa uses exclusive deals with banks and merchants to shut out competition, allowing it to charge $7 billion each year in processing fees. Attorney General Merrick Garland saying these costs are passed down to consumers and impacts the price of almost everything.
Yahoo Finance says more people have a Visa credit card than any other credit card in the world, 4.3 billion globally. Former President Trump's talking money on the campaign trail today.
We'll reduce your taxes. It'll be a beautiful thing. You'll never have this. It'll be a renaissance. It'll be a golden period. It'll be a beautiful period.
Former President Trump in Georgia today touting his economic policies. Trump leads Vice President Kamala Harris by just under 2 points in Georgia, according to 538. And the place where a lot of people discover new music these days, TikTok, is shutting down its music streaming service.
TikTok and music go hand in hand these days. The platform where dance trends are born has been helping new and old songs go viral for a couple of years now, so the expansion into music streaming with TikTok Music seemed like a natural fit. But the service, which was only in a handful of countries, including Mexico and Australia, and not the U.S., is shutting down. TikTok saying in a statement it will instead focus on its Add to Music app, which allows users to save songs to their preferred streaming services.
As Jason Nathanson reporting, and the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, kids. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We have another hour to get to before we hand off to Brian Wilson in the drive. Wilson in the house today on Music Row. That means, Belle, that you need to get in here as my personal assistant and gather up my belongings jiffy quick when we're done with the show.
I'll be delegating that.
Good for you. You now have, that's nice. Good for you. But Ken Weaver's probably got some personal assistants back there that he could lend us. I don't know. Back in News Closet.
I don't.
No. just me, fellas. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, Brian's in the house today. I guess I can talk about this, right? We got a little, Ken, are you going tonight?
I am, dude.
I love it, man.
I got my 3 fingers ready.
Oh, yeah. Just, that's what they say. Just give me 3 of these. Just give me one of these right here, right there, in a tall glass. Thank you.
Pour that out and give me the bottle.
And yes, sir, I do have fat fingers.
That's good. We've got a client appreciation party that's happening tonight in parts unknown, and Weaver will be there. Dan Mandis has told me that he will be in attendance with his toothpicks for his eyelids, which I want to get a picture of I want to get a picture of Dan and Ken next to one another.
Yeah.
Ken, I just and the instructions for the photograph will be, y'all look like you think about what time you have to get up tomorrow. Go. And then Ken will have this big smile on his face, and he'll have a little drink in his hand, and he'll be smiling, and Dan will be pouting.
Dan will be so morose. Dan does to himself what I've never seen a morning show guy do before, which is get up so much earlier than he goes on the air. I mean, he gets up at like 1 a.m.
Well, in his defense, so there are two ways to do a morning show. You either have to do all of your prep the night before, or you have to do it the morning of. And Dan chooses to do it the morning of. And I was never that way when I did morning radio. I always did everything the night before. Now, even if you do it the night before, you still better be angling to get in bed by like 7:30.
Yes.
Well, plus you've got to check for breaking stories or any news that's popped up overnight. You know, you still got to do some work the next morning.
Sure. But I think Dan, what time does Mandis get up, Ken?
Mandis gets up at midnight.
You know, I knew. I don't think Dan sleeps more than 3 hours at a time. I think he does little 3-hour bits.
It could be.
Because I have
does little power naps.
I have accidentally, Einstein did it. So, you know, Dan Mandis, who doesn't think of Einstein when you think of Dan Mandis?
Of course, naturally.
That's what Dan Einstein.
Those go hand in hand.
Thomas Edison did it as well. There's Edison, Einstein, Mandis. I mean, 3 peas in a pod.
Kevorkian?
Speaking of that, did you see these pods that they've got coming to America now?
No.
I mean, I don't mean to turn our attention to something a little more maudlin, but
this is a suicide pod like they had on Futurama?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Suicide pods coming to the United States of America. But anyway, we've got this little client appreciation party. So we got Big Brian Wilson in the house this afternoon for his show, The Drive, which cranks up at 3. And we'll talk to him about what he has on tap coming up in just a couple of minutes. So the transit tax, real quick. I've just been told that, Courtney Johnston, who has been on our show, she was running for the 5th Congressional District primary. We had her on, and, we had, it was a spirited, is it fair to say, Bill, it was a spirited conversation?
Yeah, I think you were asking her some tough questions. You weren't being, like, belligerent or mean or anything.
I was not trying to be, and I think we're still on good terms. I saw her last night at the Murray County event. Didn't see Andy Ogles. Didn't see hide nor hair of Andy Ogles. I did see Courtney Johnston. But Courtney has made it clear to me, we've been texting back and forth on this transit tax, that she is against the transit tax as well and has stood against it. And I would love to have her on to talk about this. So we'll have her on. We've got a couple of other advocates that we will have on. And I will certainly invite Mayor Freddie O'Connell to stop by before the vote and tell us why he believes the vote should go in his favor.
And Freddie's usually pretty good about communicating to the audience.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But I am predisposed to be a hard no unless convinced otherwise. 12 after 2, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Your call, 615-737-9986. Would love to hear from you. I got some bad news. While I got Weaver back there in the newsroom, I got some bad news, Ken Weaver.
What is it, Brother Murphy?
Ken, when you were out in, you grew up in Oklahoma, did you not?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Did they have the Kmarts out there?
No, they had the Otasco.
Otasco.
Yeah. Now, I think they eventually had a Kmart that somewhere I lived out there.
When I was growing up, the Kmart was the place to be, man.
Now down in Marshall, Texas, they had the Kmart.
Oh, my goodness. Did they have the little restaurant? You remember the restaurant?
Well, I don't remember a restaurant.
Oh, we had the Kmart in Thompson, Georgia. No P in Thompson, Thomson. When we had the Kmart in Thompson, Georgia, and my grandma told me that we were going to the Kmart, I knew two things were going to happen. Number one is that I was going to get a Slurpee. I was going to get a Slurpee.
Ooh, now that's worth going.
Oh, My goodness, great. With the one with the little droopy dog on the cup.
Oh, yeah.
And I was going to get a Slurpee, and I was possibly going to get a toy. If I was good, I could go down the toy aisle and pick me out a toy. But I remember the Blue Light Special. I remember the restaurant that they used to have with they had this opaque glass so you couldn't really see in the restaurant. My grandma never let us eat in the restaurant, but I could get a Slurpee from out of the restaurant. But man, oh man, love the Kmart. Well, I got bad news for everyone. Kmart is officially closed in the United States of America. Now, this is the real news, Weaver.
Okay.
This is the real, I mean, I understand. I'm not besmirching the character of our illustrious and award-winning newsman, but this is the real news. Kmart's over. There will be, after October 20th, when the Bridgehampton, New York Kmart closes, there will only be one reduced size Kmart in the continental United States of America in Miami, Florida. And other than that, Kmart has bit the dust.
That's it.
That's it.
No more Slurpees.
No more. Times are changing. No more Blue Light Specials.
No more corn dogs.
Oh, my goodness.
I bet you they make good corn dogs.
Wait a minute. Did they actually have the Slurpee brand like 7-Eleven did?
It was the one. Is that with the one with the dog and the hat on? Or I think it was more. I think it might have been Icy.
That was Icy.
Okay,
so
Icy.
it was Icy. Actually, it
and I think it's a polar bear, not a dog.
Well, probably that would be. When I was a kid, I always thought it was a dog. I guess it is a polar bear.
The last Kmart I remember in Nashville was at the corner of Gallatin and Briley Parkway, and it's now that bowling alley that we talked about a few months ago, where the owner was
a jerk. And, I will never go there again.
Yeah,
it was a polar bear. Yeah, but now they've modernized the polar bear. Now I'm looking at Icy right now. They've modernized the polar bear logo. My goodness gracious. Where's the old school logo with the... Yeah, there he is. Oh, yeah, now he looks young and hip, and he's on some sort of Ice brand skateboard. I don't know what that is, but yeah, I'm looking at the Icy guy now. Yes,
you can't ride a skateboard on ice.
Well, it's like he's surfing, Ken.
Oh, okay.
He's kind of, he's on the piece of ice, but it looks like he's riding the waves, and he's got a big Icy in his hand. He looks cool. He's got the red sweater on with the number 1 on it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't think this is the thing I'm thinking about. Somebody tell me what I'm thinking. I remember, I think you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about Slush Puppy is what I'm talking about.
Oh, Slush Puppy, yes, yeah. That was a red dog, wasn't it?
I think
a red
so.
dog on it with a snow cap or something.
Yeah, it had a little cap.
I remember not wanting those because it rhymed with Hush Puppy, and I thought I don't want anything to do with that you get those at Captain D's. I don't want a Hush Puppy.
Yes, it was Slush Puppy who had the blue. He had the blue cap on with a little tuft of white on the top of his head, and yeah, it was Slush Puppy. That's what.
But it was basically all the same thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course it was. Yeah, but he was a little bit of pot-bellied dog that stood on his hind legs and had himself a cold drink in his hand.
Well, that's what he gets for drinking all those sugary cold drinks.
That pot belly.
Got a little pot belly.
What do we blame? Oh yeah, sugary cold drinks. Yes.
Good living.
Back to the client appreciation party later on tonight. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. If you know, you know. I can't tell you where it is because we got to keep the riffraff out. There will be, and I have it on good authority, Ken Weaver, that a gentleman that very, very rarely shows up to these types of events will be there because he has been told that it is a closed group setting.
Oh, really?
You know who that is?
I do not.
Our own beloved executive producer of the Matt Murphy Show, Bel K.
Brother Bilal. Yes, sir.
That's right.
I endorse a few of our sponsors, and I'd like to go say hi to them.
Well, we're going to have fun.
We're going to have a good time.
Hopefully we don't lose any sponsors.
How do you think?
We don't want to have too good of a time.
Get liquored up, start losing sponsors.
Can you imagine Dave walking in the next day? Well, it was a massive success. We lost 5 clients.
Way to show your appreciation, boys.
I pull a Dennis Hopper in Hoosiers and start saying, the Vols cheated.
He cheated, I tell you. Pull a pint out of your coat. Get us out of here. Oh, I love it. We'll have fun. All right. Well, we've got much to do between now and them. Like talk to Skip, who's a truck driver, wants to talk about taxes on our roadways. Hello, Skip. How's it going, buddy?
How you doing, Matt? First time on the air with y'all.
I'm glad you are, man. What's on your mind?
Well, I live out in Spencer. That's about 80 miles southwest from you, Tennessee. But I drive a truck, and every year, every truck you see on the road has to pay $550 road tax. You know, they say they need all this money. I'd like to know where all our money's going to. Not to speak of the fuel, we have to pay all these taxes for road tax and our fuel taxes.
Well,
you know, I don't know if the other guy left or not, but you know, that's a lot of money. You look at every truck that's on the road, every state, everyone's paying $550 a year.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the
everyone a company owns.
Well, and Ben has left, but here's the ironic thing: is that they're selling this as a transit tax, Skip, but it will not go to roads. It's not going to be used for road construction. It's not going to be used for road repair. It's not going to be used for potholes. None of that will come out of this money. It's going to be used for bike lanes. It's going to be used for light synchronization, and it's going to be used to promote bus ridership. And here's the bottom line, and thank you, Skip, for the call. Every city that I have been in, every major city, whether it's living in Atlanta, Nashville, Tennessee, Birmingham, Alabama, even Montgomery, Alabama, and all points in between. And I know many of you have probably moved from other places, and you remember your time in those cities. Every major city that I've ever been to, there has been a push, a regular and repeated push to try to promote bus ridership. Allow me to explain something to those elected officials who have ears enough to listen. Nobody rides a bus because they want to. Pause for effect. Nobody rides a bus because they want to. People ride the bus because they have to. And people that are riding the bus that have any initiative in their bones and in their bodies, everything that they're doing in their working lives is to get to a point where they no longer have to ride the bus. The bus isn't riding. Look, I'm not besmirching mass transit. I'm not saying that we don't need it in major cities. You do need it in major cities. What I'm telling you is that the bus is a necessity. It's not a want to, it's a have to. You know, we ought to look at Section 8 housing the same way or government-assisted housing the same way. Sadly, some in those communities don't. Bus ridership is a have to, not a want to. And for some reason, cities all across America are trying to make bus ridership cool. You're never going to make bus ridership cool. Well, maybe there are ways to make bus ridership cool, but it ain't this way. You got to, I'll tell you what you do. You take that money and you privatize the bus systems and you allow some of these party bus people to be in charge of running the bus lines. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to get from point A to point B any faster or any better or any safer, but it'll be a lot more fun. It's 22 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I've been telling you about the first annual fall gala at the Men of Valor with very special guest Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow will be in our town in Nashville October 1st for the event at 5:30 in the evening at Rocketown. Now, as of 3 days ago, there were new and additional seats added because of the desire for people to go to this event. They sold out, and as a result, Men of Valor decided to add additional seats. Now, I cannot promise you that these will not have sold out already, but if not, you're invited to go to movministry.com. That's movministry.com. There are a few seats available for the October 2nd event in Knoxville. It's at the Press Room in Knoxville, Tennessee on North Broad. The one in Nashville, obviously, I mentioned Rocketown on 4th Avenue South. Men of Valor, what a wonderful organization, an organization full of men who have belief in God Almighty and understand that it is that belief that can lead people to a better life for themselves, a better life for their family members, and lead them to a productive life within society as opposed to individuals incarcerated within the system. Men of Valor is a great organization, and this will be a great event. The Fall Gala happening October 1st in Nashville, October 2nd in Knoxville. Find out more at movministry.com.
All right, so we have that line of showers and thunderstorms moving across Middle Tennessee, and we now have a severe thunderstorm warning for only 2 counties, Sumner and Macon counties until 3. The severe part of this line of showers and thunderstorms is to the northeast of Nashville. It's moving away at 35 miles per hour. Pretty much all of Middle Tennessee is under a severe thunderstorm watch until 7, so we got to be vigilant until then. We'll have the top stories for you coming up at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I got to tell you, Ken Weaver, I love hearing you talk about thunderstorms. Now, I understand that some of these could be severe, and you got to watch out for that.
You do.
But I love hearing you talk about rain. I mean, that's good news.
We got to have that rain.
We need the rain.
We do, man.
In and around our communities. I mean, they canceled the big Mount Juliet yard sale last week or week before because of the hurricane. And you know how much rain we got?
None.
0.
Yeah, that's when they were saying waves of rain were coming.
I heard all that. Mm-hmm.
Is anyone else ready to start complaining about winter?
Yeah, I mean, we can go. Let's go.
I don't want it to be winter.
Man, oh man, hell, I'll go and I'll go you one further, Bell. Man, oh man, I can't wait till it gets warm again.
You're getting way ahead of the curve. It's like when people put their decorations up way early.
We saw this Halloween. When did it become okay to put Halloween decorations up in September?
Mine are already up.
Man, I've got a neighbor. She put them up in August.
Mine are up for next year.
Well, I just, you know who I feel bad for? Thanksgiving. I mean, Thanksgiving is getting the jip here, man.
Well,
it kind of gets squeezed.
Yeah, all Thanksgiving gets is a bale of hay and a pumpkin.
I know. Maybe a couple of gourds.
Yeah.
A gourd or two.
It won't even be Thanksgiving. They'll have the Christmas decorations up.
I mean, I know. I mean, we go straight from Halloween right to Christmas nowadays, and we just Thanksgiving, just give us some turkey on Thanksgiving Day, and we're done with it.
Yeah.
A little football.
We should come up with a character by the name of the bountiful turkey that brings us presents on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, big guarantee you people start paying attention to Thanksgiving then. If the Thanksgiving turkey comes around once a year. Gobble, 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 gobble. And under his wings, he's got presents for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And delicious yeast rolls and dressing. Gobble, 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 gobble. I have a very important update. You got me a breaking news update, Bell? What? I don't know what this show has become today, frankly, so we might as well just kind of complete it. Thank you. I have this update. Thank you to loyal listener Penny, who writes in and says, in case you need to know this, here it goes. Slush Puppy was, in fact, acquired by Icy, and they moved their headquarters to Laverne, Tennessee.
That's right. I forgot about that.
There you go.
Wow.
So Slush Puppy was absorbed by Icy, and I suppose the polar bear ate the poor dog, whatever.
Probably.
And then now they're in Laverne.
That's right.
And Penny also says, I also went to Kmart with my granny, and we also loved blue slush puppies, which is exactly what I had. Turn your tongue blue.
This makes me wish Mac was still here so we could make him go get us some slush puppies.
I mean, I know, right? See, because Ken Weaver's the boss of the news department, and so we can't ask Ken to go get us.
Yeah, that would be a little uncouth.
That wouldn't work.
Maybe we could solicit that.
Plus we'd just get yelled at again. Or you'd get yelled at.
There's always the listeners. I mean, if you wanted to bring... I'll tell you this. We would never, ever ask on the Matt Murphy Show for slush puppies.
No, sir.
But we would never, ever turn them down if you brought them to us. I mean, I think I can speak for all of us in that regard. It is 30 minutes after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. When we return, I'm going to circle back to a story we had yesterday regarding this letter that was released by the Department of Justice, and no one understands why. We'll do that next on Super Talk.
Yeah, so that line of showers and thunderstorms moving through right now, prompting one severe thunderstorm warning. It is for two counties, Sumner County and Macon County, until 3 o'clock. Now, this severe part of this line of showers and thunderstorms is north and east of Nashville. It is moving away of Nashville off to the northeast at 35 miles per hour. But keep in mind, a large part of Middle Tennessee, including Nashville, under a severe thunderstorm watch until 7 o'clock. So we have to stay vigilant through 7 o'clock tonight for these storms. The Justice Department is taking on Visa. Here's more on the new lawsuit from Dave Packer.
The U.S. Justice Department filing suit against Visa, accusing the company of illegally dominating the U.S. debit card market. The complaint alleging Visa uses exclusive deals with banks and merchants to shut out competition, allowing it to charge $7 billion each year in processing fees. Attorney General Merrick Garland saying these costs are passed down to consumers and impacts the price of almost everything.
We have learned the U.S. will send Ukraine another $375 million worth of medium-range cluster bombs, rockets, artillery, and armored vehicles to fight Russia, according to a U.S. official who spoke on condition of anonymity. And in our nation's capital, the House expected to vote on a measure that will fund the government for the next few months this week. This continuing resolution will not include a measure that would require proof of citizenship before voting. That measure, called the SAVE Act, was on former President Trump's wish list, but when asked whether he is going against Trump's wishes to pass this current bill, House Speaker Mike Johnson said no.
He and I have been on exactly the same page. I saw a headline. I'm defying Trump. I'm not defying President Trump. I've spoken with him at great length.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Defense Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm. They're based right here in Middle Tennessee. You've heard Brink Fiddler, Gloria, Tracy, and the rest of the crew with Defense Systems on the program from time to time. Obviously, they handle workplace violence situations, active shooter possibilities, and those possibilities are always very low. And I try to remind you of that when we talk about Defense Systems. If you're a business owner, if you operate an organization where people gather, like a school or a church, you need to get this type of training. It is so very important because hope is not a plan. While the possibility of something happening from a violent standpoint, or perhaps it's an emergency or an intruder action plan that you're looking for, or security improvement consultation. I mean, all of these things hinge on the aspect that while rare, the possibilities are not zero. Hope is never a plan, folks. You need to get trained with the best, and the best is Defend Systems. They will train to your specifications, and they are good at what they do. I am a great testimony to that because I've sat through multiple training sessions with Defend Systems. Reach out today, will you, at 615-236-6484, 236-6484, or defendsystems.com. That's defendsystems.com. It is time, folks. I told you this time would come, right? In August, I said, hey, guys, it's going to get cooler. And before it does, you need to get with Efficient Heating and Cooling and let them maintenance your heater unit because you need that, right? I mean, I'm amazed at how people kind of ignore the issue of their heater or their AC once a year. And I understand. I guess I understand it in as much as you kind of whistle past the graveyard. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to think about the possibility of it going out on you. But you maintenance your car, you maintenance your body, you go to the doctor, you maintenance your teeth. You need to maintenance a big ticket item like a heater or an AC in your home because if you don't, you're going to lose life off of that unit, and that is money out of your pocket. Speaking of money out of your pocket, only $125 for a maintenance call. That does not matter. If you live in a residence, right, it doesn't matter how many units you have. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling says $125 for that maintenance call. Oftentimes, it is much less than that. That is the upper cap. Plus, they're never charging you overtime. They keep invoices low that way. Efficient Heating and Cooling, the best in the business when it comes to repairing AC. If you're still running the AC and it's not running like it should, go ahead and handle that. Or cleaning that heating unit and getting ready for the fall and winter season. EfficientHVAC.net or call 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for Efficient. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let me clean up a few things. A member of Andy Ogles' team has reached out to me. I've not asked to share this online or in public, so I won't name this person. But we were mentioning this Murray County event that happened last night. You know, Scott Sapicki was there. There were a couple of other local officials there. Our good friend Debbie Matthews was there. Kyle Rittenhouse was the keynote speaker at the event last evening at the Memorial Building in downtown Columbia. Beautiful Columbia, Tennessee. I always tell the people of Columbia, if you would just move Columbia 15 minutes closer to Nashville, I would move there in a heartbeat. And what they say to me is if we moved 15 or 20 minutes closer to Nashville, we would be Franklin. And we don't want that. I get it. Okay, whatever. And then invariably I get into a conversation about how, did you know this, Bell, that Columbia at one time was bigger than Franklin?
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. I mean, Franklin was kind of just a blip on the way to Nashville. I mean, it was a small little town, but it was kind of a dead zone.
I much prefer Columbia. Franklin's way too hoity-toity, and Columbia's just a nice, relaxed, small-town vibe.
Franklin is exactly what would happen to Columbia if a bunch of people from California moved in.
Yeah, there you go.
You know?
There you go, Franklin. You just got told what for.
I can't afford to be there anyway, so they don't let me in Franklin. I'm too poor. I get stopped driving while poor in Franklin. They pull me over. But I was in Columbia at this event, and I mentioned that Andy was not there. Now, this is
you mentioned this at the event?
No, I did actually mention it at the event, too. Okay. I was like, where's Andy? But I mentioned earlier in the show, well, I've been contacted by a member of Andy's team who says, good afternoon, Matt. Andy Ogles was in Washington, D.C. last night. He traveled up there yesterday. Therefore, he could not attend the event last night that you attended. And I said, in response, I understand. Just let me know when Andy wants to talk to the citizens of his district. I'm very disappointed in all of this. Oh, well, I suppose it will not be the last time. I got no hatred for Andy Ogles. I just don't believe that he's necessarily representing the people of the 5th Congressional District with the way that he's been acting since the FBI seized his phone. I understand that none of us trust the FBI, and for good reason. The FBI has lost our trust as an institution of government. As a bureaucratic institution of government, I believe the FBI should be dismantled. I understand that we need a National Bureau of Investigation, but I believe that that trust has been so broken by allowing the FBI to be corrupted in the way that it has been. The partisan nature of that corruption necessitates, in my opinion, that it be dismantled and rebuilt from the ground up. That is my opinion. So I understand that we are predisposed anytime we hear about the FBI going after this person or that person, especially if they're conservative, that we assume that the FBI is not doing it in good faith. And I have no idea what's going on. But I do know this. Many media organizations and many people like myself have reached out, including myself, have reached out to Congressman Ogles, asking for him to talk to the people of the 5th Congressional District and explain to them what the heck's going on. Why is the FBI seizing his phone? What is happening? And why is it happening? And what do we need to know about it? And what do we need to do to help him in any fashion that we can help? And for our efforts, we have been treated with silence. Oh, I've heard from many minions. It's fascinating to me how quickly Andy's people get back to me. But I can't get Andy to make a telephone call. And as I've been telling you repeatedly, and on or off the air, and as I've been telling you repeatedly, if he won't respond to me, if you live in the 5th Congressional District, he sure as hell ain't responding to you. Because guess what? Where I live. I'm not just some schmuck with a microphone on there. I'm a constituent. I voted for you, dude. And I got nothing to show for it. I can't get a phone call back. And anytime I bring this up, some minion in his office responds by going, Matt, they took his phone. Doesn't he know that there are others? It feels to me that he has gone radio silent because he is choosing to be radio silent. And I don't know why that is. And as you guys well know, I've had ups and downs with Congressman Ogles long before he became a congressman. We repaired that. He was on the show multiple times in the aftermath of that. I don't know why he is not forcefully responding to what many have characterized as an attack by the FBI against him. If I am innocent of the accusations against me, I am on every radio station. I'm in front of every television camera that will have me. And I'm defending my name, I'm defending my honor, and I'm defending the 5th District of the state of Tennessee. And that's just me. That's just me. You can judge for yourself whether Andy's playing it right or not. But I'll say this. Based on what we knew back in 2022 when Andy was running, because the reason that we got sideways from the beginning was that I was told that Andy was fudging the numbers on his financial disclosure forms. And I said that on the radio. I said what I was told. And I was told that I was wrong. I was told that I was new. I was told I didn't know what I was talking about. And guess who was right? Andy was fudging, and he has admitted as much. He said it was an honest error. Well, that's fine. That's all well and good. Happens every day. No biggie. We moved on from that. If Andy wants to clear up some of these accusations being made against him, he's got my number and he knows exactly where we are. But I know this. As a voter in the 5th Congressional District, I went to the polls during the primary, and I voted for Ogles. And as I was doing it, I recognized some of the personality issues that concerned me, but I also felt like Andy was a consistent conservative vote in Congress. I'm telling you, as I sit here today on September 24th, 2024, I regret my primary vote. And sadly, I tell you that I wish I knew then what I knew now. Something just feels wrong about all of this. 1119 writes in and says, could Andy be under a gag order? Just asking. Well, I suppose he could, but I doubt it. In the meantime, there is zero reason why anyone should, from the Department of Justice, have released a letter from Ryan Wesley Routh. As we talked about yesterday, this letter was released. I mean, we well know the difficulty that people like Brian Wilson, who I see standing before me, people like Michael Patrick Leahy with the Tennessee Star had in getting information regarding the Covenant Manifesto. Because the Department of Justice told us and the feds told us it was an ongoing investigation. Yet they released this nonsense. And as I was, and as you are dumbfounded, so is former Attorney General Bill Barr, saying he was dumbfounded that the Department of Justice would consider releasing this letter from the suspected assassin who attempted to kill former President Donald Trump. There is zero reason to do this other than to further endanger his life. In the meantime, I'm looking at the very tall. I often forget how tall Brian Wilson is until he comes in studio with us. Well, he's in the house today, and we'll talk to Brian about what is going down on the drive. That's coming up next on Super Talk. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, winding down the Murphy portion of the broadcast day and welcoming in. Look, I don't take full credit for this line. I heard someone mention it somewhere, but I'm going to deliver it as if it were my own. It might be raining. It might be a thunderstorm outside, but hell has officially frozen over because Brian Wilson is in the studio.
I love what you've done with the place.
Well, thank you very much. We spruced it up just for you. What's going on, man?
Well, as you know, we got a little station event this evening, so I decided I would come down and do the show from the studio.
Love it.
And so that I can get over to the station event and meet some of the people who support us each day, our clients, the most important people that we have in this business.
No question about
Next
that.
to
Well,
the
it's good to see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man.
Same here, absolutely.
Yeah, so what's happening on the drive before we get to the big client appreciation party?
Well, you know, we talk a lot about polls, but the folks at the Gallup organization went out and asked some questions about what people really feel about the issues, and didn't really get into who you're going to vote for. Just where are you on this issue? And then they looked and said, well, which of these issues is favorable for Republicans and which of these issues is favorable for Democrats? And their overwhelming observation was that like 9 out of the 10 things that they wanted to know about favored Republicans, which says to me, people may tell the pollster one thing, but the issues that they care deeply about are better answered by the Republicans than by the Democrats, which means that, you know, that may explain why it is sometimes that the polls always underestimate Donald Trump's appeal. Because they don't, people, if you ask them, am I going to vote for Donald Trump? Some people may say, I don't know if I could bring myself to say it.
Right.
But when they get into the booth, they look at the issues that really impact them, and then they pull the Donald Trump lever. And I think that's part of it. So I'm going to go through these issues. I think you'll be quite interested in it. And then there is a one heck of a January 6th story, believe it or not, that came out of nowhere today about a transcript that has just been released. And it absolutely backs Donald Trump 1,000%.
Does the Pentagon thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you're getting into this.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I think some of us are hesitant. Well, some in our industry are hesitant to continue to go back to that. Because they don't think that necessarily, even if they believe in Donald Trump and they like what he's doing, they don't think it's necessarily good for him a month out because you're reminding people of that moment in time.
That's right.
But I think it's important to correct the record for the record's sake.
Yeah, and there's just no doubt at all that Donald Trump told him, said, you look, do whatever you need to do to secure the Capitol. You have my advance permission to do so. And they didn't do so.
Well, I can't wait for that. And plus, you get to look. Well, you don't really get to look Ken Weaver in the eyeball because he's behind the glass.
I can actually see him better from my home studio than I can when I'm here because I have to crane my neck around to see him.
As wonderful as the lighting is in here, I covet your home lighting at the home studio in beautiful. What do you call it? Bucolic. Bucolic Watertown. Yeah. Brian Wilson in the Drive's up next, and we appreciate him stopping by Music Row. He's got all the news that you need to know for the next 4 hours. We'll be back tomorrow at high noon. Until then, ladies and germs, enjoy Brian Wilson, hug your loved ones, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. So long, everybody.